Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks, as always, for making your way here, checking out the series. You know what to do. If you like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with your favorite artists. I am so excited today to have Connor Maynard on. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back, man. You've been on another run after it seems like you didn't disappear, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit. But suddenly the music is pouring out again, and the latest we'll hit that right away because you've caught a little bit more fire with a new cover, a Whitney Houston cover, right?
Yes, exactly. Kind of like a cover slash like reimagination, reimagined version of it. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking about you reimagined Dance with Somebody. So
Yeah.
how like what brought this on actually? Because what, by the way, a beautiful version that you've done.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was kind of random, really. I feel like I've always been a huge fan of the song. I've always loved the song. So I probably kind of always had in the back of my mind, oh, I'd love to kind of do a version of it or whatever. And I think that probably about 6-7 months ago, I kind of had the idea of like, oh, I feel like the song itself could really lend itself to a kind of more kind of sadder, kind of more, I don't know, like melancholic type version. I remember thinking like the lyrics, especially the chorus, could really lend itself to a kind of sadder song. And kind of a few months back, probably about 4 or 5 months back, I was dealing with a kind of a really kind of difficult breakup. And I remember at the time feeling like I wanted to go out and like kind of party and go out and have fun with my friends and dance with somebody, but I felt like I literally couldn't. I was kind of like in a position where as much as I wanted to go out, I couldn't bring myself to go and do it because I was still missing the person I'd just broken up with. And I remember thinking at the time like, oh, that's a really nice kind of twist on the lyrics of Dance with Somebody. And I kind of just sat at my kind of piano in my studio in my house and just kind of figured out some like chords that worked with the song, and it kind of all just came about like through kind of just a kind of a random idea that plucked in my head to kind of what I was going through, and it all kind of just meshed together with this song, and it just came about. So yeah, it kind of happened like that, and I played it to a few of my friends, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! You have to put this out." And I was like, "Okay, cool, I'm going to put it out." So yeah, that's what happened.
I mean, it's a great way to do it too. The something old, something new kind of coming together. It's like the old folk tradition. Like the old folkies used to do that all the time. You know, you take the song and you kind of put your new spin to it. But
exactly, I think people resonate with familiarity. I think that people like they love hearing something that they feel familiar with, but they often like hearing it in a completely new flipped version. I think I've always done that, with my covers from the very beginning when I first started doing them when I was kind of, like 16, 17, it was like 13 years ago. I remember whenever I did a cover, I never wanted it to feel like a rip-off or a copy. I wanted it to feel like a whole new listening experience. I wanted people to feel like they were listening to essentially a brand new song, even though it was kind of a cover of another song. And that's kind of always just been the way I do it. And same goes for this one. So yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be a little bit of you're tackling a classic here. You're adding something new to a classic. Like there's a little bit of a trust fall there, right?
100%. It's very intimidating to step into something like that. I remember the song was actually meant to be released in January, and there were a few hiccups and a few mishaps that led the release date to be postponed and basically pushed back and delayed. And we were kind of looking forward around the time to kind of okay, when should we release it? And then it turned out that February the 11th, 2022 was the 10-year anniversary since Whitney Houston's passing. And we remember seeing that and thinking, oh my goodness, it literally felt like the kind of stars had aligned. We were like, well, should we do it there? Like, it feels like kind of perfect date to kind of pay homage to kind of her legacy. And we kind of thought to ourselves, but obviously at the same time, we don't want it to seem like, we were utilizing that or anything. So we were kind of like umming and ahhing. And we actually approached the Whitney Foundation about the kind of idea, and they green lighted it. They really liked it, and it kind of all worked out that way. So it was really, really nice to know that they liked it and okayed it. So
yeah. Well, again, it is a beautiful version. What you've done to it, and as you mentioned too, you're no stranger to doing these with covers, and I don't know if there is a right answer for this, but is there something that you're looking for? Well, like when do you know that it's the magic song?
I don't know. I think some often you would just try it. Like I think often you'll have an idea, you'll give it a go, and then I've probably got things that I've recorded. Well, I've definitely got things that I've recorded that just I'm like, no, not totally sold on, not really hit the mark, and I'll just kind of leave it or whatever. But with this one, as I said, I finished it. I loved it myself. I was like, I really like this version, and I played it to a few friends. They were like, oh my god, you have to release it, and then that was kind of what happened. So yeah.
And we got to hear. So as I hear, like this is setting up something more though, right? I mean, there's going to be an EP.
I don't know exactly what the plan is, but I know there's going to be a lot more music this year. Obviously, I kind of started my journey as an independent artist at the beginning of 2020. I basically left my record label, and we basically myself and the record label split ways, kind of right at the beginning of 2020. And I then was like, right, okay, looking to the future, thinking, right, how am I going to kind of now navigate this kind of industry as an independent artist? And I've just been learning like every step of the way. And I think this year, I've just kind of thought to myself, right, I really want to just focus on releasing as much music as possible, finding exactly what people want to hear from me, what people, seem to respond to in the best way, and just kind of, going from there. And obviously staying true to what I want to release. I'm not going to release, music that I don't like just because I feel, oh, well, that's what people want. And I'll always put out what I want to put out. But I just think, I think this year I really want to focus heavily on just getting loads of music out. I don't know whether it's going to come out in the form of an EP or if it's going to be like single after single after single. I don't really know yet, but it's definitely gonna be a lot of new music this year, which will then lead on to a tour at the end of the year. So yeah.
That's I was reading one of your interviews or watching one of your interviews from a couple of years ago, and it was when you were doing Kinky Boots. Yeah. And I think you had mentioned that you had written hundreds of songs.
Oh yeah,
during this time.
I have hundreds of unreleased demos on my laptop, on hard drives everywhere. Just like all songs that people will unfortunately probably never hear, but like. But that's only because I only want to release, the best possible music I can. I feel like, I'll write a lot of songs. The same goes for every artist and every songwriter. You'll write things that just, you feel like it's just not good enough, and you kind of scrap it and you go on to the next one. So, obviously the problem is it's opinion based. So, I might write a song that actually is the best song ever written, and I'll just go, nah, I don't like it, and then I'll scrap it. Little do I know, my entire fan base would have, it would have been their favorite song. That's the unfortunately the kind of thing that does happen when you're writing music. So yeah.
Just to be sitting on that many though, yeah, right. So the stuff that you're writing, I do want to hear more about these though. I mean, just whatever you can give us the teaser, like what is the sound that you're going for right now? Where are you drawing from inspirationally with the lyrics? I mean, any of this?
All different things, really. I mean, as I said, with Dance to Somebody, I was dealing with quite a kind of difficult breakup at the end of last year, and I wrote another song that I released called What I Put You Through, and that came out towards the end of last year, and that was very personal, and that was very much about the situation that was kind of ongoing at that time. And I think when you're writing and recording music that's based on something that's genuinely happening and that's genuinely true in your life, it feels a lot more rewarding when you kind of have that finished piece of work at the end. So I feel like I definitely prefer taking from things that are genuinely happening or genuinely true in my life. It feels more authentic. It just feels like, I wouldn't say easier, because although it's kind of, it obviously, it gives you that kind of, that content, that inspiration to write from. I feel like you suddenly become, well, I want it to be so perfect. I want it to, I then become very particular about what I want the song to say, because I want every line to be on point. I want it to be like really exactly how I'm feeling. Whereas if you're writing a little bit more generally, you're kind of a bit more blasé, and you'll think, okay, well, like, just put that line in there because it works. Like, I mean, yeah, that line rhymes, so just put it in, type thing, and it sounds good. Whereas when you're writing about something true, it's like, no, I want it to be perfect. I want it to say exactly how I'm feeling, and that can often be really difficult. So, but I think I would say I'd prefer drawing from kind of real situations. I think that all the music that's coming out will be very much drawn from things I'm really going through. So yeah.
So if that's if we've heard a bit of the breakup with these two songs right now,
yeah,
should we also expect the catharsis? Or is there another the other end of this tunnel? That's it yet to come.
Probably, yeah, I think so. It's just probably going to be as it comes. I've already written songs that are kind of a little bit more based on the the aftermath of the breakup and kind of feelings. Now I've written things even in the last few weeks that are more about how I'm feeling now about it. So I think what's kind of frustrating is that it is quite delayed. People are here. Dance Somebody obviously was written quite a few months ago. That was drawn from how I was feeling a few months ago. Now I'm kind of in a different space and drawing things and writing things that are about how I'm feeling now, but then they won't be heard for another few months. So it's kind of always a little bit delayed. But I think it's all stages that people can relate to. So I think people are always in different stages of their life. So I think people will hear it and relate to it regardless. So yeah.
Well, speaking of stages, I did bring up Kinky Boots, and you'd done the run with that ended just a couple years ago. And of course, that's a classic play, right? Broadway musical. I'll say play, whatever you want to call that. Yeah. But I mean, it's such a lifestyle and such a mood that you're put in every single day. Have you noticed since you've been writing after that, has any of that Broadway-esque kind of rubbed off on your songwriting?
Well, that's really funny you should ask that. I wouldn't say on the songwriting, but definitely on the recording. And it's really funny because me and one of my really close friends, his name's Anth, he's a musician as well, and we do loads of a lot of my videos online will feature him, and even if they're not featuring him, we will have worked on them together. And we literally have this kind of personal joke now that literally was born from the Kinky Boots era of when I was doing that of that show. And it was about halfway through my run, I basically realized that when I was doing kind of my kind of like signature, my character name was Charlie. And when I was performing Charlie's like signature pieces, like Soul of a Man, which is a song in Kinky Boots, I kind of noticed halfway through my run, I was like, if I just like growl at some of the notes, if I really just go, like I really push for it, even though I'm not necessarily singing any better, it's not any more difficult. It's just a kind of thing I just do with my throat and makes it appear like you're really going for it. I would notice that the applause and like the standing ovation I'd get at the end would just be so much more like, oh my, they'd be so much blown away, even though the only thing I did was just add a slight growl to some of my notes. And I noticed that the reaction was just so much more intense, like, oh my goodness, he smashed it type thing. They were like so like blown away by this really tiny addition to like this performance that now whenever I record something, I remember I recovered a cover of Someone You Loved by Lewis Capaldi. It's actually gone on to be one of my most like successful covers I ever put out. And when I recorded it, I remember I actually recorded it in Anth's house. He lives in Tampa in Florida. And I recorded it there and I finished it. I played it to him and he sat there and he just went, you need to Charlie it up more. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, it needs more Charlie. And I remember thinking like, what do you mean? He's like, remember you told me like if you just growl? And I was like, oh, okay. And I redid some parts and he went, that's it. And then obviously, as I said, it's gone on to be one of my most like successful ones. And I would say I now do that like so much more in my recordings now. I kind of have this kind of real like husk and real kind of like, as I said, growl that I put into like some of the like higher notes. And I think people just resonate with it more. They hear it and they go, oh my God, it's so much more feeling. It's so much more kind of that. And I suppose it kind of does come from that. It kind of adds a kind of a real raw emotion to kind of the vocal, but it is such a simple trick and it's something that I picked up whilst doing Kinky Boots. So it is quite funny that you asked that. So yeah.
It's interesting too, because one of the tracks that you collaborating on, 7 Days, came out, I think it was last year, right? Like it has that mood to it. And I think that's the one I like went towards the most too, because of that mood.
Yeah, 100%. It's just, it kind of makes the vocal feel more emotional. It kind of hits you a little bit harder. It really hits you kind of right in the face. And it is, it's funny how well it seems to work. So yeah.
Yeah, those little tricks you pick up on the stage.
I know, exactly.
It's the good stuff. Did it feel like when you were doing that, I mean, did you have to put one part of your career on hold for this? Like, is that now like sort of in its own little box that time?
When I was doing Kinky Boots?
Yeah.
100%. I remember like afterwards, I was asked about other shows, and I remember at the time just feeling a bit like I would maybe do other shows in the future, but I just felt like that kind of 3-month period. I basically went over to New York. I did a month of rehearsals and then 2 months of my actual run on the show. So I was living over there for about 3 months. And I remember literally feeling like I kind of had to put my kind of, solo artist music career completely on hold while I was doing that, because it was so kind of taxing on my voice, and it was so kind of strenuous, like physically. I remember just thinking, I don't know how these other performers that are in the show have lives. Like, I remember just thinking, like, all I could literally do was drink honey, lemon, and ginger tea, like constantly throughout the day, keep silent basically whenever I'm not on stage. And only then could I basically preserve my voice and be able to kind of meet the 8 show kind of quota, like a week. And I remember just feeling like, if I do anything outside of this, if I went off and recorded another song, or if I went off and did my own performance, or even just going out and hanging out with friends, if I did anything like that, I would find it really difficult to kind of go and do the show the next day, or even the following days. And I remember just feeling a little bit like, as fun as it was, it just took so much away from the kind of recording artist side of my life, which is obviously my main focus. So I would only ever do a kind of a Broadway show again, or a stage show again, if I felt like, cool, I'm maybe having a bit of a break right now from being kind of main out the artist. Let's do that again, because it was genuinely fun, but it did take away from kind of everything else I was doing. So yeah.
Right. But what an interesting chapter. You said you'll go out on tour with some songs. Do you bring the Kinky Boots songs with you?
Oh, I don't know. It depends. If it feels like the audience, and the fans are kind of waiting for it and they want it, like 100%. Like, I remember I went to see while I was actually in New York, doing my kind of going through my rehearsal phase. Mark Ballas, who played Charlie right before me, he did his own little kind of show he did his own show in New York while I was there, and I went along to the show, and he performed some Kinky Boots tracks, which was really cool. So I remember watching that and thinking, oh, that's something I could maybe do like in the future, now that I've obviously done the show. So maybe we'll see.
See, I would love to hear that. But in the meantime, again, new singles, you've been knocking it out with collaborations like crazy. And every single one of these sounds, I wrote down like Eyes for You, the Squid Game song,
yeah,
which that's fun to see, this stuff. When you get a collaboration like this, like, is there a different process that you bring to that? Are you able to take stuff that you've already done, or is it like a complete blank slate for you?
It can work in loads of ways. With the collaborations I've done, obviously I've done so many for over the years. It's kind of I would say they always come about in different ways. I think obviously going back to like the kind of like right at the beginning of my career with my first album, obviously I did 2 collaborations with Pharrell, which they came out of the fact that he basically saw me online. I think he saw me on YouTube, and it was actually quite a weird process, because he reached out to the record label that I was signed to and asked if I was signed, and they were like, well, yeah. Like they were like, yeah, to us. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I still want to work with him. And they were like, okay. So I went over to Miami, and I spent a week with Pharrell, and we came out with 2 songs at the end of it, which was really cool. There was a song that was written by Frank Ocean that appeared on my first album, and that was completely different. That was one of his producers reached out to my team and were like, oh, we've got this song that's written by Frank, and I don't think he's going to use it, so we would love like Connor to vocal it and see how it sounds. And I loved it, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. And then that song came out of that. I think we used some of his backing vocals on the tracks. You can kind of hear Frank's vocal in the backing in the backing of the track, which is really cool. So that was slightly different. And then there have been others where sometimes it's even like a little, which I always think the most interesting ones are this, where it's kind of like an audition. Like, there will be like producers that have a track and they want a vocalist on it. They don't necessarily know exactly who. They know that maybe the style of the vocal they want, but they'll kind of think, well, this could be sung by whoever, and they'll kind of ship out to like whoever, like all of those artists, and basically whoever does record it will send it back, and then they'll just listen to all of them and pick the one that they like the most. Those ones are always a bit like kind of horrible, because you put all this time and effort in, and then they end up not using it, and you're like, oh no, I don't think. So I much prefer it when they come directly to you because they want your vocal. That's much more kind of much of a nicer feeling. But they come about in different ways every time. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's been a kind of a cool part of your career just to catch those on its own. I mean, one of these days you've got a compilation that's just featuring Conor Maynard.
Yeah.
It's
exactly. Well, I think I've released I might even be right in thinking that there's more songs that will come out where I'm a feature as opposed to just like my own songs. Because there was a time where I was really pumping out the collabs and the features. So maybe I think if not, it will definitely be close. It will be close. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, man, congratulations on all the success as always. And again, this new version of Dance with Somebody, it's beautiful. It really is.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
All right. It's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you.